On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's New Year's Eve, which means it's time to take a look at the year that was. And for the Toronto Raptors, it was kind of a really good year. Weird, but good.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Wednesday, December the 31st, New Year's Eve. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Everyone get drunk and stuff, I guess. And I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join. As always, come be part of our listener community, which is pretty fun when the Raptors are winning basketball games. It's good stuff. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And we're off and running here on your New Year's Eve edition of Locked On Raptors as we take a look at the year that was in 2025 for the Raptors. A transformative year in many ways, kind of emerging from the rebuild, a pretty major firing in Masai Ujiri that we'll talk about surely over the course of the next 30 minutes. We'll talk about the players who told the story of the year. We'll look ahead at 2026 and we'll do it all with our dear pal, Katie Heindl from Basketball Feelings and NBA TV. Katie, how the hell are you?
I'm good, man. Ready for the year to be done. Not in a it was so terrible way, but just comfortable with that.
Yeah, totally. Always good to close the book on, this arbitrary thing we call a year. Katie, time, ain't it a thing? Before we get into the basketball, I do have to ask you a very important question. We haven't spoken since Christmas. How did your Lord of the Rings rewatch go?
It went well.
Are you still a Sam hater after watching it again?
Man, he sucks. Also, Frodo sucks. He sucks so much. The two of them, it's like a wonder they get anything done. Every movie, Frodo is just getting stabbed. He gets stabbed, I think, in every single one.
Stabbed, falls down a whole lot.
He's always shocked. Yeah. It's like, you're the last person that should be surprised you're getting stabbed. It always happens to you. Anyway, it went well.
Great. We're currently working our way through the Return of the King. It turns out when you have a 6-month-old at home, you can't just sit down and watch all of the extended editions of The Lord of the Rings in one shot. It's kind of a fragmented experience, but we're making our way. I do think I've landed on The Fellowship of the Ring is my favorite one of the three. It's just really good. Lots of exposition, lots of Gandalf, lots of, I just like it. It's good stuff. It's really well plotted. There's just things moving all the time. I'm also really appreciating Pippin on this run through, maybe the best of the Hobbits. Anyway, let's talk about the Raptors, shall we? The Toronto Raptors had a pretty successful, I would say, 2025 compared to recent calendar years in the past half decade or so. All told, Katie, they go 45-38. There's still a game tonight against the Jokic-less Nuggets, so you'd hope that they're 46-38. Sorry to anyone who got tickets to that game for Christmas who will not get to see Nikola Jokic, but you will get to see Jamal Murray probably take 48 shots, so that will be fun. They, of course, a year ago today, Katie, had the 54-point loss to the Boston Celtics on the road that kind of felt like rock bottom for last year, rock bottom for the sort of post-Pascal Siakam rebuild. And from there, they kind of turned on the Jets, so to speak. They go 25-24 over the remaining 49 games. They pick up the fun win when Emmanuel quickly returns to the lineup on New Year's Day against the Brooklyn Nets. And they've spent basically the entire calendar year as one of the top 10 defenses in the NBA. They traded for Brandon Ingram. We obviously didn't see the fruits of that born until this season began just a couple of months ago, but that I think has been a pretty resounding success based on what they paid to get him at the time and the sort of criticism they received for the move at the time. Seems like things are working out pretty all right there. Plenty of change this year too. Masai Ujiri being the single biggest thing. He gets fired like the day after the draft. That was weird. Definitely for basketball reasons and not at all for Ed Rogers ego trip reasons. And we sit here now. They're 20-14. They're fourth in the Eastern Conference. Things feel as hopeful as they've been in a long time. I think this stretch to start the season, as littered with extremes and sort of really low lows as it's been, feels pretty comfortably like the best stretch of basketball we've watched this team play since 2022 at the very latest. I mean, it could go back as even far as like 2020, 2019, if you want to do that, 2020, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. But this does feel like it's been a pretty successful year all told for the Toronto Raptors after a few kind of in the wilderness. What are your overall impressions of 2025 as a year in Toronto Raptors history, Katie?
You pointed this out before we started, but that real terrible loss to the Celtics on New Year's Eve last year, going into a nice little win, like right after. I don't know. Thing that feels quite symbolic about that. You touched on all the big things. I think the biggest thing for me was this sort of like, we knew the Brandon Ingram trade was going to be one of the most markedly, like, things were going to turn in one direction or another with that.
Sure.
We had to wait, obviously, for the season to see how that would all come to fruition. But it has in a really lovely, kind of exciting way, I think, especially given what that's lent to someone like Scottie Barnes's game, his maturation, his ascension. It's all like kind of come together really nicely. So as much as you were talking about these like lows, which I would actually quibble with, I don't know that the lows have felt so low.
Scoring 81 points on the Nets felt pretty low to me.
Sure.
And losing to the Wizards last weekend wasn't great.
Sure.
But yeah,
that's
for the
just
most
two
part,
things. Think of how many lows we've had.
Yeah, I mean, they were the worst offense in basketball for the 15 games RJ Barrett was out. That wasn't awesome.
Okay, but
there was
that
a
20th
for
win against the Magic, it took them
great.
until March 4th last season to get to 20 wins.
Crazy.
So, like, that feels good.
Yeah, relative to recent years, the lows have been perfectly acceptable.
And it's good. It's good when your lows don't feel as rock bottom, right? That is actually progress. You know, the lows still suck, but they don't feel nearly as tumultuous as they did last season. So, you know, I have to say, I will cop to this because this is something I think I predicted being more impactful, but the loss of Masai, I haven't seen it in the like trickle down effect in terms of like the cultural aspect of it and kind of the energy around the team, which is very positive and very good, as much as I thought I would, which might just be the Rodgers that be backing off.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one wasn't as seismic as I think I anticipated it being.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think there's probably sort of tendrils of Masai Ujiri's influence that, you know, they're not always visible and sort of during the course of a season, right? And so maybe there's sort of, you know, longer reaching, longer term stuff that maybe we'll start to feel the absence of. You know, we're not going to have a Giants of Africa night this year. Like that's interesting. You know, there's that type of stuff, the sort of beyond the court stuff that Masai was part of. But I think you're totally right in that, like, it seems as though the hope always was, and this was the case, you know, as they went through various cycles of, oh, the Knicks want Masai or the Wizards want Masai. And it's like, oh, can they withstand the loss of Masai to the culture to kind of keep things going forward? And the hope was always that they had kind of built up enough sort of organizational equity that they could handle the departure of Masai, that his influence on all of those who are left behind would kind of be there. And I mean, I think it's fair to say, like, this team has his fingerprints all over it. Like they are winning games. They are 20-14, and they are a top 10 defense. And Darko Rajakovic was the guy he handpicked, and he's been fantastic. Scottie Barnes was the dude he hitched the wagon of the franchise to going forward. By all accounts, he was pretty keen on the Brandon Ingram trade. Very funny that there, you know, a time in the offseason where it was like the reporting was suggesting that maybe Bobby Webster was not super keen on that. Compared to Masai, who pushed for it, you know, all of this stuff, like Masai's influence is still very much felt. And, you know, had they started the season, you know, 10-24 or something like that, maybe you're looking a little differently at, you know, the sort of the departure of Masai, and did things crumble and was this the reason why they've kind of spun out of control? But yeah, I think you make a pretty good point in that he's gone, and, you know, it's weird not seeing him around games and stuff, and weird not hearing from him with his press conferences, whatnot. But it does seem like they've kind of had a bit of a self-sustaining thing here that can stand the test of time without him. And, you know, we'll see. 2026, I don't think is like a guarantee to be a perfect year for the Raptors by any means. And, you know, there's some pitfalls they could run into. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But all told, as transformative as the year was at the higher end when it comes to players, when it comes to front office stuff, they seem to have gone through that transformation and been better for it on the other side and seem to be heading in a pretty good direction. So, nice stuff, Katie. It's nice not sitting here reflecting on a year where it just was like, wow, we wasted our entire year watching this basketball team play,
Yes.
huh? Yeah.
It's a better feeling.
Yeah. We'll come back to this side here, Katie. I want to get into the sort of players who told the story of 2025 for the Raptors. Word association stuff. You think of the year 2025. Who's the player that comes to mind? We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, and Fridays feel different during the basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better every Friday night before the games tip off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. Maybe you're lounging around on Friday, the 2nd of January after New Year's, recovering from your 2-day hangover, because when you're in your 30s and 40s, hangovers last more than 1 day, baby. Maybe you want to throw some money down on the games Friday night around the NBA. You can go and do that with FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app. See what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sports book partner of the NBA. Back at it here with Katie Heindl as we continue to take stock of the year that was for the Toronto Raptors in 2025. Before we jump on in, what a great way to bring in the new year. The Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club, baby. Sign on up. $5 a month, $50 for the year gets you ad-free episodes of this show every day, plus a couple extra perks. In addition to a not the Locked On Raptors Discord, that's free forever. But you will also get access to the Locked On Network Discord with people who like Locked On shows across the entire world. It's pretty fun. Come hang out, and of course, you'll get bonus perks and content and stuff like that as well as part of the Everydayer Club too. So sign it up. Link in the description of the podcast if you want to go and do that. All right, Katie, 2025. The players who we kind of think of, let's just boil it down to one guy. We can talk about honorable mentions, but we got to do, some hard-hitting, hot-taking here on a podcast. That's what we do, Katie. This is the rules. You think back over the years, 2019, Kawhi Leonard, 2020, Kyle Lowry, unburdened from everything. 2021, Fred VanVleet kind of taking the mantle in Tampa. It sucked. It was terrible, but that was cool that Fred VanVleet was as good as he was. 2024, Bruce Brown, maybe would be the guy who comes to mind, at least for you. 2025, who you got, Katie? I think there's some real interesting contenders here, but if you have to boil the experience of the Toronto Raptors in 2025 down to one player who tells the story the most, who you got?
Brandon Ingram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Tell me why.
Obviously a bit of a toss-up, but I think I alluded to it, when we got started, that so much of this was like the waiting game, right? It's waiting to see how this trade was going to turn out, how Brandon Ingram was going to look when he came back from that injury. It's not that he was just new to the team, like he'd been out for a substantial amount of time with that injury. So, and then of course, like how he's going to look with the team. So I think all that waiting really built up, some suspense. And I think there were more detractors than I imagined in terms of wanting to give this guy a fair shake with Toronto. And we have seen, the front office have a lot of success in terms of bringing people back from injuries, right? And working with them, not rushing things. And that was very much the case with Brandon Ingram. And I was also told this man didn't play defense, and I saw him doing some pretty sweet blocks just the other night against Magic, So I think it's been it's been super heartening because of that detraction I mentioned. 2, it's obviously a big relief. And 3, it's like it's been quite amazing to see how he fits alongside Scottie Barnes, how he fits alongside RJ Barrett quickly, like that kind of core group that we knew we'd have to fit in with, but also with the bench, right? And I think what kind of he lends them, and vice versa. And just like he seems very happy.
Yeah.
And it's sign. So to me, just this kind of like free flowing, really like offensive powerhouse team that the Raptors have turned into, I don't think that would be possible without Brandon Ingram.
Certainly not, right? Like his arrival has made everything easier for everybody. It's been the reason why Scottie Barnes has been freed up to kind of go be a terror on the defensive end of the floor and just kind of pick his spots on offense. It's, I think, allowed RJ Barrett to sort of re-streamline his game in a way he couldn't quite last year because he was just asked to do way too much. It's taken, some of the burden off of Emmanuel Quickley to kind of be the leading creative force on this team, which he just clearly doesn't quite have the full juice to do. And I think having Ingram to kind of play off of has made it easier for him as well. And I know he's on some, in some struggle right now. He's on some hard times shooting wise and all of that. I still think Emmanuel Quickley is a better player because Brandon Ingram is here. And so, yeah, Ingram is just like, probably the chalk answer. I think a great shout. He's, changed the game very much. Just kind of adding that level of shot making and talent to the team has been pretty transformative, to use a word I've already used like 4 times on the podcast because I'm low on sleep. I am torn. Like Ingram again, I think a great pick. But because it's a podcast, we have to disagree, Katie. We got to have
of course,
different. I'm out here with a hard take. It's someone else's year, baby. I think Scottie Barnes is like a pretty obvious one. I mean, this year he, has anchored a top 10 defense more or less the entire calendar year. Pretty big deal. What he's done this season, sort of leaving the experimentation of last year behind, where it looked rough, it looked inefficient. It was, in some ways concerning what he was doing or not doing with the ball in his hands. The way he's just kind of found his way to getting to the places on the floor he knows he can eat from, the defensive stuff, the leadership stuff, all of that. Like he I think, Brandon Ingram is the best offensive player on the team, probably. I think Scottie Barnes is still clearly the best and most impactful player on the team, and he's just been allowed to flourish even more with Ingram on the roster. That said, I think the last month has really helped RJ Barrett climb in the status of this question. And I think in many ways, this year is a little bit defined by RJ Barrett. I think last year, obviously around the trade deadline, there was plenty of rumor that he was going to be the guy going out for Brandon Ingram. And, when that was the case, I was a little lukewarm or cold on the idea of trading for Brandon Ingram. RJ Barrett plus picks, all this stuff for Ingram. Like, it didn't seem like it was worth it to me. And then you come in with, you end up getting the buy low on Ingram. You don't have to give up any sort of long-term roster players to get him. And you sort of give space for him and Barrett to kind of find chemistry with one another. Yet still throughout the entire summer, because we hadn't seen them play together yet, it was, RJ Barrett's going to get traded this year. Probably they're talking to his representation about how he's likely going to get traded at some point. And I think over the last few months, it's become pretty clear that he's like cemented himself in the plans of the team, whatever happens going forward. And I just think it's awesome, right? Like I've not always been like the keenest on RJ Barrett as a basketball player, as far as like impacting winning stuff like that. I think the narrative on that has flipped pretty significantly this season because of what he's done, the way he's streamlined, the way he's bought in. And it's just like really gratifying and easy to root for a dude at home who clearly loves playing at home, who's playing the best basketball of his life and is obviously very important to the team's success. You miss him for 15 games. Your offense goes from top 5 to literally dead last. Like, not much of a more ringing endorsement of the effect of a player than that. And I think it's been really cool to see RJ Barrett kind of, after a long time in his career of being this sort of, he's on the Knicks and God, it'd be nice if they could upgrade on him. And, he doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. For him to kind of, I think, pretty declaratively stamp, I'm a winning player, and like it's good for me to be on your basketball team. And in particular, I'm going to do it for the team I grew up watching. Like, I don't know. It's a pretty heartwarming story, Katie, to see what RJ Barrett's done in 2025. What say you to that?
I like that. I also like it because it's sort of a surprise, right? I think until he got injured, it wasn't necessarily, we knew he was important, but it wasn't as clear how crucial RJ Barrett was to the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
And that's been a total 180, right? From the way that anyone was talking about him, certainly over the summer. So I love to see that revenge. No, just kidding. And just to see, like I think in the NBA, it can be such a rare thing. I was actually kind of reminded by this the other day when the team signed Mo Bamba because
Mhm.
I was like, when did he get drafted? Oh, 2018, like top 10. Like that wasn't a long time ago. It's very hard. I think we're sort of spoiled with the fact that we have all these top tier, like at least top 100, guys like year after year after year, that you sort of forget the actual churn of the NBA below that and how difficult it is to stay in the league. And I think when you see somebody like RJ Barrett have this next iteration of his career, in a sense, it's a very rewarding thing to see. And that he's not just impactful, but like quite essential to the way that the Raptors now play basketball.
Yeah.
Cool.
The guy who has provided the most balance to their offense of anybody, you take him out and the sort of Jenga tower falls apart a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I would assume we'll see him play again tonight. Looking forward to that. It's been a treat to watch him play this season and hopefully for many years to come. He's only 25 years old. That's crazy. Nuts. Katie, before we get into sort of looking ahead to the year ahead, we should probably look back at some of our favorite things that happened this year. Do you have something, whether it's like an individual game, a play, a moment, a Brandon Ingram game winner over Pascal Siakam after Siakam gets blocked by Jakob Poeltl and
I
some
didn't like
basketball
that.
poetry?
I don't like that.
Is there something that stands out as like, okay, that play, that moment, that game kind of to me is the one I'll most take away from the last 12 months?
I already mentioned it, and it wasn't just one, but I think like anytime Brandon Ingram pops up for a block, right? Like a defensive block or just
that
like
Hornets
a big
game,
like defensive play, I get such like pleasure out of it. Like there's such a oomph to it too, because I do think that someone who's maybe been written off and discounted is like, that's not part of their game doing that. It's it really rules to see.
Yeah.
I'm very bad at like picking out specifics. I really am. Scottie Barnes, like few jam,
so I can
like
do it if
few slam dunks have been good. Yeah.
I mean, it's recency bias, but Scottie going 23, 25, and 10 against the Warriors and looking like he was 14 feet tall.
Yeah, I thought that was too obvious to pick, but yeah, that was amazing.
I have a pick, and it's not from this successful part of the 2025-26 season. It's from the part of last year where the Toronto Raptors were pioneering new ways to try to lose basketball games, where they were doing the thing where they were playing their starters very ethically and then taking them out if they ever had a lead with like 12 or fewer minutes left and just hoping that their bench guys squandered it. And to me, I think my favorite thing that happened this year is someone who is pretty anti-tank, who thinks gaming the lottery system is a fool's errand because, I understand how probabilities work. And I know that's maybe not part of the curriculum anymore or something, but, the lottery is designed to make you upset and leave you disappointed. And so doing everything to try to optimize your odds, it's loser stuff. And for me, nothing better or more satisfying this year than Jacoby Walter against the Orlando Magic on the road in a game where the Raptors were trying as hard as they possibly could to lose, hitting an off-balance weirdo game winner 3 at the buzzer. Incredible stuff. Just, stymieing the lottery odds derby and, showing off, I think, hey, like giving these young guys room to grow and play, this is a good thing. Having guys like Jacoby Walter have moments like that leads to what he's done over the last week or two, where he's really, I think, come into his own as an NBA player and looks at home on a team that's trying to win basketball games. That to me is going to go down as one of my favorite things that happened all year long. One of, frankly, my favorite sort of weird instances of Raptors basketball in the last half decade. Like it just, a delight to see the lottery odds affected negatively by a cool ass crazy game winner by a guy who was in the game with the express intention to lose it and simply denied the Raptors of that. Very cool stuff. We're going to come back on the other side here, Katie. Get into 2026, a year ahead for the Raptors where there may be some pitfalls. There may also be some more opportunities to kind of layer on the success they've built over the last year. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at Gametime. And look, it's a wonderful time to go to sporting events if that's the type of thing you like to do. Also, theater, concerts, comedy, it's all there for you. And during this time of year where the basketball is hot and heavy and the Toronto Tempo are coming up, you're going to be able to buy tickets for those games very soon. It's all very thrilling. Gametime is the single best place to go to get the advantage back. If you're a fan looking to score amazing tickets at a price you just want to pay, fast, simple, without the guesswork. Browsing Gametime is super straightforward and intuitive. You find tickets, and it just takes a few taps to do it. You get the views from your seat. If you've never been to a venue before, super handy. Either way, go check them out. You get zone deals. They unlock great seats at even better value, and they take out the guesswork entirely. There's no last-minute fees. It's all what you see is what you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Gametime. Down the Gametime app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Down the Gametime app today and get in on the action. Back at it here with Katie Heindl as we wrap up our chat about 2025 with a chat about 2026. Katie, the Toronto Raptors go into this new year in playoff position. We get to maybe see the return of playoff basketball for the first time since 2022 this coming year. That's very exciting to me as someone who just really is a little piggy for playoff basketball and getting to watch my team play it. Cannot wait. It seems, dare I say, likely that they'll be in the playoffs at this point. That's awesome. Well, there's transaction cycles and trade deadlines and drafts and summers and all that stuff to look forward to as well. How you feeling, Katie? What's the vibe check going into a new year for the Raptors? Are you feeling as though the ground has been laid to kind of continue building upon the progress of 2025? Are you concerned about forks in the road that could lead them down a dark path to sadness? What do you got for me? 2026, what's coming to mind as you think about what lies ahead in the next 12 months for your local basketball team?
Barring a blockbuster trade, which I don't think is going to happen, and I don't want to happen, I think everything feels pretty stable. I will say that I was very heartened, and the timing was right for the bench to go off like it did.
Hell yeah.
The other night, and I think like that's something you and I have talked about, that just basically the expectation for guys like Jacoby Welter, Grady Dick, Ochai Agbaji has been, they haven't quite met it yet, the way that like somebody like Jamal Shed has, right, in terms of consistency. Or maybe one of them goes off for a game, but not all of them together, not enough to certainly carry the team to a win. But I think that comeback win against the Magic really showed that they're all kind of leveling up at once, which is important. I also was thinking about the playoffs in the sense of like closing games is tough for a young team, and that's something that the Raptors have certainly struggled with. But that they were able to kind of chase and still get the win. And they didn't look too put out doing it. I was still nervous, which also reminded me that I don't like of playoff basketball. When there's stakes.
I like feeling the dread. It's great.
No, I don't.
Like when you lose a playoff game and you wait 2 days for the next one and you're just sitting in your own juices for a while.
No,
I love it. It's
a terrible feeling. Anyway, it seems like they kind of unlocked something in terms of understanding how to better close games. And that's going to be crucial in the playoffs, depending how far they want to get. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It does feel, you never want to say it's a sure thing in basketball, but it does certainly feel much more within reach than I thought it would be at the beginning of the season. You and I think we're talking about a play-in situation.
Sure.
And now that seems quite far off and not what this team is built for.
Yeah. And look, I'm not under any illusions that they're like going to win a championship this year or anything like that either, right? I think it's just going to be kind of slow steps of progress, and some people don't like that and want things to be instantly gratifying and for them to trade for LaMelo Ball before the deadline, and I just don't think that's going to happen, thank God. I think they are just going to kind of slow play this and see what they have before they make some next steps. I do think they're very much on track for this to go down as a successful season. Coming into the year, I think the hope was, be competitive, win some basketball games, hopefully make the playoffs, and learn a whole lot about your team in the process. And I do think they've learned a whole lot. I think they've learned the value of RJ Barrett. I think they've learned Scottie Barnes can be the anchor of a very good defensive team. I think they probably learned that Emmanuel Quickley is someone who doesn't quite have the juice to be a lead guard. And, maybe that's a place to look to upgrade at some point. I doubt it happens before this trade deadline. I think it's probably more something we look at in the summertime, if that is going to be a thing. But, and look, there are other pitfalls too, right? Like Jakob Poeltl's back could have been the story of 2025 if we really wanted it to be. And you hope it's not the story of 2026. And, we'll see if he's able to come back and rest up and do all the strength training and stuff that apparently they're doing with his back. Backs are weird. They're unpredictable. I think there's this sort of level of discontent among the fans because there is not clarity on it. And like, I don't know, man, just have you ever felt weird in your back? Like it's a hard thing to pin down as to when that's going to feel better. And you hope it doesn't become a thing that sort of plagues the season going forward, plagues the contracts and the books going into the future as well. And that Poeltl's able to get back and be himself, but that's certainly a pitfall. There's also the reality that like the East is not always going to stay this open. 2026, we are going to likely see the return at some point of Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton to the picture. What does that mean for the Celtics and the Pacers? Do they return to just being the heavies of the East? I think certainly in the Celtics case, they seem like they will. The Pacers maybe have a little bit more work to do finding out a Miles Turner replacement and stuff like that. But it's not going to be this sort of free open meadow of winning basketball games against mid-ass teams forever. Like there are going to be heavies they have to go up against at some point in 2026, and the dynamics of the conference will shift. But yeah, I think you got to feel pretty good about where they're headed, and hopeful that 2026 can kind of just like be another step forward as they try to rebuild this thing. And I think patience is an important thing, right? Like they're probably going to lose in the playoffs in a way that's not like the best, right? Like I would imagine like a noble first round out is probably where they're headed. That's not what anybody really wants in the grand scheme. But I think if you look at Raptors history, there's plenty to be built upon from first round exits that can kind of portend better things down the line, even if there's another first round exit waiting the next year. Shout out the Wizards. 2014, Grievous Vasquez is the name that I think of. Unfortunately so. But yeah, I think things feel all right. I do think the player development thing you mentioned, Katie, the sort of young guys, that's going to be, I think, a real through line of this next year that kind of dictates where things go. We saw in that Magic game, and we've seen of late with Colin Murray-Boyles doing the thing and Jacoby Walter finding his level, that like this team is going to go as that sort of second wave of guys development goes. And I'm hopeful. I think there's plenty of stuff to build on and look forward to with a lot of these guys. And I'm fascinated to think about what we're going to be talking about with regards to Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, Colin Murray-Boyles a year from now, and sort of how they've gone about sort of filling in their games and filling in the roster behind the guys they've invested in up at the top. You said you don't want to see a blockbuster trade, Katie.
No.
But the Raptors are on such a run of having big trades in various years. 2023 at the tail end, the OG trade. 2024, the Siakam trade. 2025, the Ingram trade. I would not be shocked if we get another biggie at some point in the summer in particular. I don't think we see it at the deadline, but if they kind of learn what they've learned and continue to kind of go on this pace into the postseason and lose the way they probably are going to be expected to lose, I would not be shocked if we see them sort of pursue one of the distressed guards around the NBA. And if I'm making like a bold proclamation here, Katie, Darius Garland is a Toronto Raptor when we're talking this time next year. There we go. I said it late in the podcast for the freaks. Does this at all seem like something that is on the table or possible to you?
When I say no to those big trades, it's these like disgruntled like superstars that are either trying to get out, or a team is trying to ditch them. Because I think then you essentially lose the team as it is in order to get that person, which to me defeats the purpose of doing the trade.
Just say his name, Katie. Say that's a Giannis take you have.
Well, it's also an Anthony Davis take.
Totally.
And if you're talking about LaMelo, like sure. That's also that take. And I think that for me is a mid-season. I'm not averse to doing something in the summer, especially when you see how the postseason is going to shake out. Darius Garland, well, he is certainly a star player. To me, it wouldn't be as damaging
No, sure.
as these other sort of blockbuster trades. That one makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, it requires the Cavs to get waxed in the playoffs again, which, hey, they
Yes.
love getting waxed in the playoffs. So maybe that's likely to happen at some point if they even make the playoffs. They're currently in the play-in, so there's that. It's just, I think, the Raptors, like, there's a lot of teams. The reason again, am I betting money that Darius Garland will be a Raptor a year from now? No, this is what bold predictions are for, mostly to be wrong. But like, just kind of looking at the pieces around the league, the teams that are in need of guards, the teams that, in theory could pursue someone like a Darius Garland, should the Cavs be looking to change up the mix. Like, they are so near the top of the list of guys, of teams that could use a guy like Darius Garland, that I'm willing to throw a bold proclamation down that, yeah, why not? A year from now, Darius Garland running the show. Wouldn't that be tons of fun? He's a very cool basketball player. I'd like to see it. Maybe I'm manifesting, but hey, a couple years ago, I did this with Emmanuel Quickly, and so maybe I have powers. Katie, this was lovely. As always, anything you want to promote for the good people out there to wrap up 2025?
Yeah, the basketball feelings, feeling of the year just dropped this morning. So it's a roundup from past contributors and friends of the newsletter giving their feeling moment person pick of the year.
Awesome. Everyone go check out Basketball Feelings. Pay money for it, please. That should be your New Year's resolution, is to give Katie your money, because Basketball Feelings is simply the best of NBA writing. And you should support this podcast by following, subscribing, rating, reviewing, telling a friend. It always feels weird that we're like doing an end of year show and we'll just have another podcast, probably not tomorrow because it's New Year's Day, but the day after, and we just keep on trudging forward. There's no finality to this whatsoever, but it's nice and round to talk about the year that was on the day the year ends. And so thank you for supporting the show all year long. 2026, hopefully a big one. We've got some fun stuff on the way with the podcast in 2026 that I can't quite talk about just yet, but can talk about very soon, probably as early as next week. So looking forward to that. And we will leave it there. Thank you very much. Join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast. Sign up for the Everydayer Club, $5 a month, $50 for the year, ad-free episodes every day. Have a wonderful, safe new year, and we'll talk to you in 2026. Bye-bye. I think that was short.